ExamPrep.School. Missouri Personal Lines Insurance Producer exam code 56. There are 4 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Missouri statutes, rules, and regulations common to all lines. Missouri statutes, rules, and regulations pertinent to personal lines. Policy provisions and contract law. Property and casualty insurance terms and related concepts. Types of casualty policies. Types of property policies. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. In a standard homeowner's H03 policy, the dwelling structure is covered on which perils basis? A. Broad form named perils. B. Replacement cost basis for perils. C. Basic form named perils. D. Special form open perils. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is D. The H03 form is a special form that provides open peril coverage for the dwelling structure, meaning all perils are covered unless specifically excluded in the policy. Reason A is not correct. Broad form named perils describes H02 coverage, not H03. Reason B is not correct. Replacement cost refers to valuation, not the range of perils covered. Reason C is not correct. Basic form named perils refers to H01 or H08, not H03. Question 2. Which of these perils is covered under the dwelling coverage of an H02 policy? A. Falling objects. B. Flood. C. Civil authority. D. Nuclear hazard. The correct answer is A. The H02 form is a broad named peril policy that includes coverage for falling objects among its listed perils. Reason B is not correct. Flood losses are excluded and require a separate flood policy or endorsement. Reason C is not correct. Civil authority coverage is provided as an extension under other forms, not a named peril in H02. Reason D is not correct. Nuclear hazard is universally excluded under homeowner policies. Question 3. Under an H05 policy, personal property, contents, is insured on what type of perils basis? A. Broad form named perils. B. Replacement cost only basis. C. Basic form named perils. D. Special form open perils. The correct answer is D. An H05 policy provides special form coverage, meaning personal property is insured on an open peril basis with all perils covered unless specifically excluded. Reason A is not correct. Broad form named perils applies to H02, not H05. Reason B is not correct. Replacement cost describes valuation, not the scope of perils. Reason C is not correct. Basic form is H01, which provides very limited coverage. Question 4. In an H04 policy, which statement best describes coverage A? A. Not provided under the form. B. Protects personal property on a replacement cost basis. C. Provides legal liability for the residents. D. Covers dwelling damage under named perils. The correct answer is A. The H04 renters form does not include coverage A, which applies to dwelling coverage for homeowners. It only provides coverage C for tenants' personal property. Reason B is not correct. Coverage for personal property is provided under coverage C, not coverage A. Reason C is not correct. Liability coverage is under coverage E, not coverage A. Reason D is not correct. H04 does not insure the dwelling structure under any named perils. Question 5. A powerful hailstorm shatters the exterior windows of Amy's condominium unit. She files a claim under her H06 condo unit owner's form. Which of the following provides coverage for replacing the damaged windows? A. Coverage A, improvements, alterations, and additions. B. Coverage C, personal property. C. The condominium association's master policy. D. Coverage D, loss of use. The correct answer is C. The H06 form covers interior improvements and personal property, but structural components such as exterior windows are covered under the condominium association's master policy. Reason A is not correct. Improvements coverage applies to interior fixtures and finishes, not structural windows. Reason B is not correct. Personal property coverage applies to contents, not building components. Reason D is not correct. Loss of use reimbursement applies to additional living expenses, not repair of structural damage. Question 6. During a windstorm, several roof tiles on Hector's 75-year-old home, insured under an H08 older home modified coverage form, are damaged. The damaged areas are replaced with modern synthetic shingles that cost 20% more than the original tiles. Under the terms of the H08 form, how is the amount payable for roof repairs determined? A. Original purchase cost of the damaged tiles without depreciation. B. Replacement cost of the synthetic shingles. C. Upgrade cost difference between original tiles and synthetic shingles minus depreciation. D. Actual cash value of the damaged tiles at the time of loss. The correct answer is D. H08 policies settle losses on an actual cash value basis, reflecting replacement cost of like materials minus depreciation. Upgraded or full replacement costs are excluded. Reason A is not correct. Payment is based on ACV, not the original undepreciated cost. Reason B is not correct. No replacement cost coverage is provided under an H08 form. Reason C is not correct. Upgrade costs and complex depreciation beyond ACV are not considered under H08. Question 7. Which one of the following perils is covered under the dwelling property? 1. DP1, basic form. A. Volcanic action. B. Internal explosion. C. Weight of snow, ice, or sleet. D. Accidental discharge or overflow of water or steam. The correct answer is B. The DP1 basic form ensures only 3 named perils: fire or lightning, internal explosion, and no others. Internal explosion is the only correct choice. Reason A is not correct. Volcanic action is added by the broad form, not the basic form. Reason C is not correct. Weight of snow, ice, or sleet is covered under the broad form only. Reason D is not correct. Accidental water or steam discharge is insured under the broad form, not the basic form. Question 8. Which one of the following perils is insured under the dwelling property 2, DP2? Broad form, but not under the DP1 basic form. A. Insect infestation. B. Fire or lightning. C. Weight of ice, snow, or sleet. D. Internal explosion. The correct answer is C. The DP2 broad form expands coverage to include weight of ice, snow, or sleet, which is not part of the DP1 basic form's limited named peril list. Reason A is not correct. Insect infestation is excluded under both the basic and broad forms. Reason B is not correct. Fire or lightning is included in both basic and broad forms. Reason D is not correct. Internal explosion is a named peril in both basic and broad forms. Question 9. ADP3. Special form policy covers a seasonal cabin that remains vacant from November through April. The insured did not shut off or drain the plumbing system before departure. In March, an extended cold spell causes interior water damage when frozen pipes burst. How would the insurer most likely handle this claim under the DP3 policy? A. Cover the damage under the automatic additional coverage for accidental discharge of water. B. Deny the claim because freeze of plumbing is an excluded peril when heat is not maintained or the system is not drained. C. Deny the claim due to the vacancy clause after the dwelling stayed unoccupied for more than 60 days. D. Cover the damage as an open peril loss under the DP3 special form. The correct answer is B. Under DP3 special form, damage caused by freezing of plumbing is specifically excluded unless the insured maintains heat or drains the system. The vacancy clause and water discharge coverage do not override this explicit exclusion. Reason A is not correct. The accidental discharge additional coverage does not apply because the freeze exclusion supersedes any water discharge coverage when the system was not protected. Reason C is not correct. While the vacancy clause could also exclude some losses, the primary reason for denial is the freeze exclusion rather than the period of unoccupancy. Reason D is not correct. Although DP3 is open peril for the structure, freezing of plumbing is a named exclusion and is not covered as an open peril. Question 10. Which of the following is included as building property under coverage A of a standard flood insurance policy? A. Permanently installed cabinetry, electrical system, and original flooring. B. Detached garage, external deck, and interior furnishings. C. Swimming pool, bulkhead, and landscaping. D. Clothing, electronics, and personal property and basement. The correct answer is A. Building property under coverage. A comprises items permanently attached to the insured structure such as cabinetry, electrical systems, and original flooring. Other structures and personal property are covered under separate flood insurance categories. Reason B is not correct. A detached garage and deck are classified as other structures, while interior furnishings are contents under coverage C. Reason C is not correct. Swimming pools, bulkheads, and landscaping are land or external features not covered under building property. Reason D is not correct. Clothing, electronics, and other personal items are contents covered under coverage C, not building property. Question 11. A homeowner's NFIP policy provides $200,000 building coverage and $100,000 contents coverage with a $5,000 deductible applying separately to each. After a flood, the replacement cost of the damaged personal property is estimated at $75,000, but the actual cash value is determined to be $60,000 at the time of loss. How much will the insurer pay for contents losses? A. $70,000. B. $95,000. C. $55,000. D. $60,000. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is $55,000 because NFIP contents coverage pays actual cash value, not replacement cost, and the separate $5,000 deductible is subtracted from that ACV amount. Reason A is not correct. That choice subtracts the deductible from replacement cost instead of actual cash value, which is not used for NFIP contents coverage. Reason B is not correct. That choice subtracts the deductible from the policy limit rather than from the actual cash value loss. Reason D is not correct. That choice reflects the actual cash value but fails to subtract the applicable deductible. Question 12. Under a personal articles floater, what information must be included for each scheduled item? A. Actual cash value at time of loss and a blanket limit for all scheduled items. B. A complete description of each item, appraisal date, and agreed amount of insurance. C. A general category description and total coverage limit for grouped valuables. D. The policy deductible and insurer's standard loss settlement valuation. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is a complete description of each item, appraisal date, and agreed amount of insurance, as the personal articles floater requires each scheduled item to be individually described and insured for an agreed value based on a formal appraisal. Reason A is not correct. This option is incorrect because the floater uses an agreed amount per item rather than actual cash value, and it does not provide a blanket limit across all schedules. Reason C is not correct. This option is incorrect because grouping items under a general category omits the required individual descriptions and agreed values for each scheduled article. Reason D is not correct. This option is incorrect because listing only the deductible and insurer's valuation does not satisfy the floater's requirement for detailed descriptions, appraisal dates, and agreed amounts. Question 13. After a magnitude 6.2 earthquake, the Smiths' home sustained $70,000 in structural damage. Their dwelling limit is $350,000, and their policy includes an earthquake deductible of 15% of the dwelling limit. How much must the Smiths pay as the deductible before coverage applies? A. $10,500. B. $52,500. C. $59,500. D. $17,500. The correct answer is B. The earthquake deductible is calculated as 15% of the dwelling limit, $350,000, which equals $52,500. This amount is paid before insurance applies. Reason A is not correct. This option calculates 15% of the loss amount rather than the policy limit. Reason C is not correct. This reflects the remaining loss after subtracting 15% of the loss, not the deductible itself. Reason D is not correct. This represents the insurer's payment after applying the correct deductible, not the deductible amount. Question 14. Which of the following best describes the bodily injury liability per person limit in a split limits auto insurance policy? A. The maximum amount payable for any one individual's bodily injury claim in a single accident. B. The maximum amount payable for all bodily injury claims arising from a single accident. C. The aggregate maximum payable for all bodily injury claims during the policy period. D. The total amount payable for property damage resulting from a single accident. The correct answer is A. The per-person limit specifies the most the insurer will pay for a single bodily injury claimant in one accident, separate from per-accident or aggregate limits. Reason B is not correct. This describes the per-accident limit for all bodily injury claims, not the per-person limit. Reason C is not correct. This describes an aggregate limit over the policy period, not the per-person limit. Reason D is not correct. This refers to property damage liability, not a bodily injury per person limit. Question 15. In a split limits automotive liability policy, the bodily injury liability per accident limit represents A. The maximum payable for all bodily injury claims from one accident, regardless of number of claimants. B. The maximum payable for each injured person in a single accident. C. The maximum payable for property damage in a single accident. D. The maximum combined liability for bodily injury and property damage per person. The correct answer is A. The per-accident limit sets the total. The insurer will pay for all bodily injury claims arising from one accident, irrespective of how many people are injured. Reason B is not correct. This describes the per-person limit, not the per-accident aggregate limit. Reason C is not correct. This refers to property damage coverage, not bodily injury per accident. Reason D is not correct. This incorrectly mixes bodily injury and property damage and per-person terminology. Question 16. What is the property damage liability limit in an auto insurance policy? A. The maximum amount payable for damage to another's property per accident. B. The maximum amount payable for all bodily injuries per accident. C. The amount payable for collision damage to the insured vehicle. D. The aggregate limit for property damage claims during the policy period. The correct answer is A. The property damage liability limit defines the insurer's maximum payout for damage the insured causes to others' property in a single accident. Reason B is not correct. This describes bodily injury liability, not property damage liability. Reason C is not correct. This refers to collision coverage for the insured vehicle, not liability for others' property. Reason D is not correct. This conflates a per accident limit with an aggregate policy period limit. Question 17. A personal auto policy has liability split limits of $100,000 per person, $300,000 per accident, and $50,000 property damage. Two individuals sustain bodily injury claims of $120,000, Alan, and $150,000, Betty, in the same accident. How much will the insurer pay for bodily injury coverage under the split limits? A. $250,000. B. $300,000. C. $200,000. D. $270,000. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that the insurer pays up to $100,000 per person, so it will pay a total of $200,000 for the two claims under the split limits. Reason A is not correct. Calculating $120,000 plus $150,000 ignores the per-person cap of $100,000. Reason B is not correct. Applying the full $300,000 accident limit ignores individual per-person limits. Reason D is not correct. Combining per-person caps with partial accident limit does not follow split limit rules. Question 18. John Doe, the named insured on a personal auto liability policy, recently divorced and his ex-spouse Jane moved out of their shared home. Jane continues to drive John's covered vehicle with his permission and causes a collision. Which statement best describes Jane's status under John's policy? A. Jane has no coverage under the policy. B. Jane is a named insured for liability and property damage. C. Jane qualifies as a permissive user but is not a named insured. D. Jane is only covered for property damage. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that any person driving with permission isn't insured as a permissive user, but a named insured must be identified in the declarations or meet residence requirements. Reason A is not correct. Permissive users are insured under liability coverage when driving with permission. Reason B is not correct. A named insured must be listed in the declarations or meet household residence requirements. Reason D is not correct. Permissive user status provides both liability and property damage coverage, not just property damage. Question 19. Maria Martinez is the named insured on her personal auto policy. Her 19-year-old daughter attends college full-time and lives in a dormitory during the school year, returning home for summer and holidays. Which statement correctly describes the daughter's insured status under Maria's policy? A. The daughter is not an insured while living away at college. B. The daughter is only an insured when driving Maria's vehicle in her state of residence. C. The daughter is an insured family member even when temporarily living at college. D. The daughter is covered only for property damage liability. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that a full-time student away at college remains a resident relative, and therefore a family member insured under the policy. Reason A is not correct. A full-time student living away temporarily is still a resident relative under the policy, a Class B misdemeanor for assault committed more than 5 years ago. Reason D is not correct. Coverage for family members includes both liability and property damage, not only property damage. Question 20. Which of the following best defines collision coverage in a personal auto policy? A. Payment for loss resulting from theft, vandalism, fire, flood, or striking an animal. B. Payment for damage to a covered auto caused by impact with another vehicle or object, or by the upset of the covered autos. C. Payment for damage due to mechanical breakdown or wear and tear. D. Payment for personal medical expenses regardless of fault. The correct answer is B. Collision coverage pays for damage to the insured vehicle from collisions with other vehicles or objects, or from vehicle overturn, less any deductible. Reason A is not correct. Those perils are covered under other than collision coverage rather than collision coverage. Reason C is not correct. Mechanical breakdown and wear and tear are excluded from both collision and comprehensive coverages. Reason D is not correct. Medical expenses coverage is provided by medical payments or personal injury protection, not collision coverage. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below. We read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.